Fala galera, beleza? Meu nome é Diego Morini, preparador físico da Seleção Brasileira de Taekwondo e sejam bem-vindos ao Taekwondo Talk. O programa de hoje ele é um pouco diferente, ele é bem especial, como todos os programas na verdade, mas a gente está testando um formato novo. Então primeiro que eu não vou fazer o programa ao vivo, os últimos programas ao vivo a gente teve alguns problemas de transmissão, então para tentar evitar esse tipo de coisa eu vou tentar fazer ele gravado e ver se ele dá menos problema. Tá bom? E outra diferença é que eu trouxe uma convidada internacional e eu vou fazer uma tradução simultânea e ver se dá certo. E eu queria um feedback de vocês para ver o que vocês acharam desse novo formato, para ver se eu continuo fazendo isso. E antes de chamar a nossa convidada, propriamente dito, eu gostaria de agradecer uma pessoa especial, que é a Valéria Rodrigues, grande atleta brasileira número 7 do Ranking Mundial, que ela fez essa ponte entre a nossa convidada e eu. Então eu queria agradecê-la. E caso você tenha alguma sugestão de convidado, tenha um contato, entre em contato com a gente para a gente poder viabilizar um programa com essa pessoa. Então, sem mais delongas, eu gostaria de chamar a Yvette Yong. Ela é uma canadense, número 1 do ranking mundial, já foi medalhista em campeonato mundial, campeã de Jogos Mundiais Militares, campeã do Campeonato Mundial Militar, campeã de Campeonato Panamericana, enfim. Yvette, thank you very much for having accepted this invitation. It's an honor for me. I'm a huge fan of your fighting style, and having an interview with you, it's a great honor for me. And thank you for, I know that you are a very busy woman, and you are sharing 1 hour of your time to share your experience with the Brazilian Taekwondo community. So thank you very much.
It is a pleasure for me to do this for you and for the Brazilian Taekwondo community as well.
Well, thank you very much. I will start the interview. I will talk first in Portuguese and then I will translate to English, ok? Então, pessoal, como que vai ser a dinâmica da nossa entrevista hoje? Eu vou sempre falar a pergunta em português para vocês, e aí eu já traduzo para ela a pergunta e faço a resposta vice-versa também, ok? Então eu vou começar perguntando, aquela velha pergunta, como que ela começou o Taekwondo e o porquê. Eu sei que é uma pergunta batida, mas eu sempre considero importante. Yvette, I know that probably you have answered a lot of time this question, but I think it's a very important question. Why had you started Taekwondo? When and why? Like, because Taekwondo it's not a very popular sport in much of the countries, and I always have this question: why did you start this? So if you could share with us.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I get that question a lot. It's very interesting to see how everybody started Taekwondo because it's not a very popular sport, in North America or like many countries. It's not very popular. It's not like soccer or not like basketball or anything. So for me, it was actually kind of like an accident, that I started Taekwondo. My father, he was a Kung Fu instructor in Malaysia. And so, I always loved Kung Fu, martial arts, Bruce Lee, he was like my hero when I was younger. So everybody wanted to do Kung Fu. Like, I loved it so much because I was born in the 90s, right? So we couldn't find a Kung Fu school near our house when I was younger. The only thing that was the closest to Kung Fu was a Taekwondo school, and I really wanted to do a martial arts. So I actually joined as a birthday present. I was 9 years old, and I joined as a birthday present. And ever since I went into Taekwondo and I started my first kick, I fell in love with it.
Wow, that's a very nice story. I will just translate to people here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Então eu perguntei para ela por que ela começou o Taekwondo. Aí ela falou que realmente não é o esporte mais popular lá no Canadá, mas que o pai dela veio da Malásia e ele era professor de Kung Fu. E ela sempre foi muito vidrada em filmes do Bruce Lee. O Bruce Lee era uma grande referência para ela quando ela era menor. Ela disse que era uma criança dos anos 90, e todo mundo dos anos 90 tinha ele como referência. E como presente de aniversário de 9 anos, eles levaram ela para fazer uma aula de taekwondo, que era o que tinha mais próximo ali onde ela morava. E aí ela falou que já no primeiro chute já se apaixonou pela modalidade. Agora eu vou perguntar para ela quais foram as principais referências no esporte, no taekwondo. And Yvette, it was very nice your story about how you started in taekwondo. And I would like to know who in taekwondo, who were your main reference when you started until now?
So the people I looked up to, who I wanted to be. Yeah. So when I was training, when I was younger, there was another girl who was training there. Her name was Tanya Timberly, and she was actually in the finweight division. So she was a little bit older than me, and when I saw her training, and she was on the national team too, and then she was a very fierce and very strong and very powerful kind of fighter. I really looked up to her when I was training when I was little. And now she's, because she was also studying at the same time as well as training. So I really admire that about her, doing everything and being well-rounded, So, and now she's a doctor, and she was also a champion before. So I really looked up to her. Because she didn't just do one thing, she didn't just train, but she wanted to have a good future as well as training. And I think that's really good for your mind and your body to be very well-rounded, to do everything.
Oh, I fully agree. What's her name?
Tanya Timberly.
Yeah. Okay, I will translate for people here. Então ela falou para ter quem eram as principais referências no taekwondo, especialmente quando ela começou, e ela disse que era uma atleta da seleção nacional, que era mais velha que ela, chamava da Tanya Timberly. E o que chamou muito a atenção dela, que se tornou ela uma referência para a Yvette, é que ela, além de treinar muito bem, ser muito agressiva, ela também estudou, hoje ela é doutora, então ela conseguiu conciliar o taekwondo com os estudos, e isso é uma coisa que ela considera muito importante, você não só fazer uma coisa, porém você conseguir conciliar o taekwondo com outras responsabilidades, não só fazer só o taekwondo, o que é uma coisa interessante. Agora eu vou perguntar para ela como que funciona o taekwondo lá no Canadá, como que é a estrutura de seleção brasileira, se eles fazem training camp, se treinam juntos. I'm very curious to know how does it work, taekwondo in Canada? Does the national team train together? Do you have training camps? How does it work? Because I know there are teams around the world that they train together. For example, I think Iran, it's something like this. But you have other, for example, here in Brazil, we have a big country, and each athlete train with their teams, and we do some training camps for the national coaches, know the athletes, and maybe train a little bit and change something in their styles. How does it work in Canada?
So in Canada, it's a little bit different. It's a very big country, so it's hard to get all the national team players together at one point in time to train, because we're a very big country, and everybody has their own life, has their job to do. Either they're studying or they're working, right? So it's very hard to get us all together. And we don't, Taekwondo is not a very popular sport, like I said, so we're not professional kind of athletes here because we don't get paid, right? So it's actually, in Taekwondo in Canada, is almost like a hobby. It's not really like a professional sport that we do. So we have to have our own normal life. We have to work, we have to study, and if we want to, we can train Taekwondo. So we train in our own clubs here, and once in a while, sometimes we will have some training camps. It depends on the funding of our government. That's really helpful too, because it's very hard for all of us to come all together in one place, because we don't have one national training center for Taekwondo. Right, so so it's a little bit difficult, but our federation is trying. It's getting better, and we're trying to have more training camps together, because I think that's really important for a team.
Yes.
right? But unfortunately, we don't have the right funding for that. We don't have too much support because unfortunately it's not a very popular sport, and not a lot of people are watching it or excited about it, right? So it's very difficult for us to all train together. So right now we are training in our own clubs, in our own cities. And I'm also on another team in Canada, the Canadian military team.
Yes.
So a lot of our players are from one part of Canada, so it's a little bit easier for us to be together. But still, like, because it's not a popular sport, we have our own lives. We have to work. We have to study. It's very hard for us to take time off to go to a training
I
camp.
see. I will just translate this for people.
Yeah, of course.
É, então, o que ela falou é o seguinte: o Canadá ele é muito grande, assim como o Brasil, né? É um país muito grande. E ela falou que o Taekwondo lá, os atletas eles são meio que quase amadores, vamos dizer assim, no sentido de não se dedicarem apenas ao esporte por não receberem. Lá eles não têm exatamente um salário, aparentemente, do governo para treinar, como a gente tem muitas vezes o Bolsa Atleta aqui. Então, os atletas normalmente eles têm a própria vida, eles estudam, ou eles trabalham além do taekwondo, então é muito difícil às vezes reunir todo mundo. E além disso, muitas vezes a confederação ela não tem um recurso para fazer o training camp. Então, às vezes tem, mas ela falou que não é tão regular esses treinamentos de campo. Agora eu vou perguntar para ela, ela tocou em um ponto interessante sobre a questão dos atletas não receberem. Eu vou perguntar para ela como que funciona para ser um atleta profissional lá no Canadá. Aqui, por exemplo, a gente tem Bolsa Atleta, você tem jogos regionais que às vezes a cidade paga, ou você tem as Forças Armadas. Eu vou perguntar para ela como que funciona no Canadá. Yvette, you said something that I'm very curious to know. Here in Brazil, when you start to have a good performance in Taekwondo, you have some ways of making money with this. We have basically 3 ways for an athlete here in Brazil make some money from Taekwondo. The first way is we call Bolsa Atleta. It's a sponsor for the government. Basically, depending on your results, or national or international, we have different types of sponsor. Of course, if you are better, you receive more money. And then many athletes receive this money. For national athletes, it's not so much, but it's something, it can help you. Another way is we have a very famous championship here that's called Jogos Abertos. It's a competition between cities from the countryside of the country, and these cities many times hire some athlete, and then he can make some money competing by the city. And the third way, it's not for everyone, of course, it's to become a militar. I think as in Canada, here in Brazil, we have our army. They hired some athletes, and then I think that's the better chance that you have, because you can follow a career and make some money, and you can keep training. How does an athlete in Canada does to live from Taekwondo? Is it possible to live just from Taekwondo there? How does it work?
To be honest, it is impossible to live just doing Taekwondo for a living in Canada. Like I said, Taekwondo in Canada is more of a hobby as opposed to a job. We definitely can't live just doing Taekwondo. If you want to do Taekwondo, I mean, you can open a school, run a club, run a program and that, but if you do that, you don't have time to train, and you don't have time to travel and, compete. It's very hard, like I said, and that's why in Canada, everybody runs their own life. They work, they study, and, if they have time, they can train. That's why I think that the results, like through at World Championships or any international competition, it's I feel like that's partly a reason why we don't do as well as other countries who are full-time athletes in the
Yes,
world who are
sure.
getting paid a salary to fight, because all they have to do, they don't have to worry about income, they don't have to worry about paying their house or paying their, traveling or food or everything. We have to live a normal life with work and studying and training. That is extra. So we have to work extra hard to make up for that traveling and the competition fees and, all of that.
Yes, I think it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Então,
Yeah.
uh, uh,
And also, just to add on, it's also very hard to get sponsorship because Taekwondo is not very popular here. It's very hard to get any type of funding. We do have a sports funding, but it's very minimal and it's not for everybody. It's only like maybe a few people each year that can get it, and we have to show very, very good results. So the whole year we're spending so much money to go all these competitions just to get that funding. But when you think about it, you spending all that money just to get that funding, but the funding is maybe doesn't even pay back all of
yes.
the money that you spent traveling,
And
right? So
this funding
it's
is from the government. Who funds it?
yes, from the government. It's not specifically for Taekwondo. It's a sports
In general.
Sport Canada. Yeah, it's a general thing for sports,
Yes.
and they give certain amount of money to each kind of sport depending on how well they perform in the
I
world.
see.
So different amounts of funding is every year. So sometimes we don't get a lot of funding because we don't do well in internationally. But yeah, we have to rely on that and also a normal job as well.
I see.
Hmm.
Ah,
Yeah.
então ela falou aqui pra gente que é muito difícil você viver de taekwondo lá no Canadá. Basicamente ela falou que o taekwondo lá é quase um hobby. A grande maioria dos atletas toca a sua vida à parte, então estuda, trabalha, tem outra profissão e o taekwondo. Ela falou, se quiser viver de taekwondo, você pode abrir sua escola, ter a sua academia, mas aí você também vai ser muito difícil você viajar para competir e seguir a carreira de atleta propriamente dito. Então ela falou que é meio complicado nesse sentido e depois ela adicionou que existia uma bolsa, uma espécie de bolsa atleta, pelo que eu entendi, que o governo dá para os atletas e que não é específico para o taekwondo, é geral e que depende da sua performance. Só que ela falou, o problema é que para você manter um bom nível internacional, você tem que competir bastante lá fora. E às vezes o que você gasta para manter uma boa posição no ranking já cobriu essa bolsa, então meio que acaba dando elas por elas. Então, pelo que ela falou, é muito difícil você viver apenas do taekwondo. Agora eu vou perguntar para ela sobre as estruturas de treino, se são academias pequenas, individuais, se são grandes clubes, como que funciona o taekwondo lá. Aqui, por exemplo, a gente tem a diferença, por exemplo, do taekwondo e do judô. O judô está em grandes clubes como Pinheiros, Minas Tênis Clube, Sojipa. O taekwondo ele ainda não chegou em grandes clubes. A maior parte das equipes são de academias privadas. E eu quero saber como que funciona isso no Canadá. Yvette, here in Brazil, we have like big clubs, like football clubs or clubs that have a lot of sports. And taekwondo is not in this kind of club. Like judo, for example, judo is very popular here in Brazil, and we have a lot of good results in judo. Now taekwondo is getting better, our international results, but historically speaking, judo is much better. It's one of the best sports that we have here. But judo is at these great clubs, these very big clubs. And taekwondo is not there yet. Most of our athletes came from small gyms, like private gyms, and some of them have a club that's sponsored by the city or by the government. But in general, we have like not so big clubs. How does it work? How is the structure of the teams on Canada? Do you have access to big clubs, or it's just private gyms, dojans? How does it work on Canada?
Well, yes. So as per private clubs, you mean like gyms that they have facilities for physical training, for physio, and things like that?
Like a private club, for
Those,
example, I have my own gym, for example, where I have like my
mm,
dojo, and I have some equipment here for strength training.
mm, mm.
This is like my practice, my gym.
Your own
Yeah,
club, your
my
private
own
club,
club.
yes.
It's
Okay,
not
yeah.
like a big club, for example. Here we have Pinheiros, Sport
Mm,
Club Pinheiros, which is like
mm,
the biggest, most elite club in Brazil. Like good
wow.
part of the athletes of sports like judo, gymnastics, swimming came from this club. So it's not private; it's an institution, a big institution. So and taekwondo is
Right,
not there.
right.
And I would like to know how does it work the structures of the gyms there. It's private gyms, big gyms. How does it work?
Yes. So for Taekwondo clubs in Canada, to be honest, anybody who has a license, who is a certified a black belt with Kukiwan, and who is a master already, anybody can open up a club.
Okay.
It's that simple. You know, you if you have the funding for it, you know, the support and everything, you can open up your own club. You can teach your own people, have your own students, and everything like that. So Canada is like that. So anybody can have their own club. We don't, unfortunately, like Brazil, but I think Brazil is a little bit more further. Like you have many Taekwondo clubs. Like
Yes.
it's more popular in Brazil than in Canada for sure. Um, but here we have private clubs as well. You know, like some people move clubs, unfortunately, because some of the clubs are not as advanced in competition as they want to be. Some clubs are just for kids programs. Some clubs are just for, you know, recreational. You want to do martial arts, self-defense. You know, they don't want to be a competition kind of school, because that takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, and not all the clubs in Canada can support that for an athlete.
Yes.
So sometimes athletes have to move um, to a different club where they have a lot more players who are competing and who are in the same level as them. So yeah, we like a lot of people move around to see like if what they need, right? If one club doesn't have this kind of environment for them, they have no choice but to move. Um, and as for institutional wise kind of sport, we don't have that yet, and we are hoping to have that. Like every high performance taekwondo athlete, we really want that, you know, to make taekwondo big, like popular, and have a big institutionalized you know, center for taekwondo. Fortunately,
Yeah.
it's not as popular in Canada, and we are definitely not there yet. But hopefully, we will get there soon.
And so it's the the clubs are not so big. Like the big clubs like taekwondo, it's not insert yet, right?
No, no, they're not big. Like I said, it's because like anybody can open up a club, and you know they have anybody join. It's not as big yet, I want to say, because it's not as
I
popular.
see.
Um, I feel like if we get great results, you know, in the international scene, and you know, get results for our country, then it can get a little more popular and we can grow
I
it.
see.
You know, so that's what I'm hoping for.
Okay.
That was my goal. Yeah.
Hope to, I will just translate this. Então ela
Okay.
falou, lá no Canadá você pode abrir as suas academias, basicamente você tem no Kukiwon, sendo mestre pelo Kukiwon, você pode abrir a sua academia. Então você tem várias academias pequenas, que são tocadas por esses instrutores, esses professores, e a maioria delas é voltada para criança. Acho que aqui no Brasil também, a maior parte das academias que sobrevivem de Taekwondo tem, como a maioria dos seus clientes, o público mais infantil, ou tem um aspecto mais marcial no seu processo de ensino, não tanto voltado para o esporte. E muitas vezes os atletas que saem desses clubes, eles têm que ir para outros clubes que têm a sparring mais compatível com o seu nível esportivo. Então vamos supor, só eu ali compito, o resto eu tenho que ficar na aula de criança, na aula marcial? Pô, acho que não. Aí eu tenho que ir para outra academia Mas, de maneira geral, o Taekwondo ele ainda não está inserido em grandes estruturas esportivas, pelo que ela me falou. A maioria é tudo estruturas mais privadas, da mesma forma que a gente tem aqui no Brasil. Agora eu vou perguntar para ela sobre a questão, ela é uma militar, ela é campeã mundial militar, e eu vou perguntar sobre qual a importância que ela vê do esporte estar inserido nas Forças Armadas. Hi, Yvette. I had the opportunity in 2018 on Rio to see you winning the World Military Championship. I was there and I had this opportunity to see you, and congratulations. You fought very well that day. What's your opinion about what's the importance about the Army had the athletes, these programs to receive athletes? Here in Brazil, we have this kind of program, and I usually say if we're not by the Army, maybe our sports here in Brazil would be much, much, much worse. And what's your opinion? What's the importance for you about the sports being the Army, and how it worked for you to become a military and represent your country in this way?
Okay, so the military in Canada is a little different with athletes. So first of all, in Canada, we are first military, we're soldiers. We are military members, and then second, we are athletes. So everything here is like, our job comes first, you know? So I'm in the Navy and I work as a naval communicator. So I'm in communications, naval communications. That is my job in the military. And that is what I have to think of first. Second of all, the sports aspect is second. So on my own time, on our own time, we don't get paid to train, and we don't get paid a salary for being an athlete. That's secondary to us, you know, but they do support us when we go to a military world championships, you know, when we are athletes doing those kind of competitions, right? So we are representing them, like in the World Military Games this past year, and then when we went to Brazil, one of my favorite countries.
Oh, great!
Yeah, I was actually in Brazil for the World Military Games in 2011.
Nice.
That was my best year, I have to say. And yeah, I love Brazil. Amazing people, Taekwondo, like people are amazing there. Brazil's my favorite.
Oh, that's great.
Of all the places I visited in the world for all my years of traveling, I have to say that Brazilians really impress me with their culture, their people, everything like that.
I think
but back to the question.
Would disagree of you.
Oh yeah. Really? Well, as for me, I love it. But yeah, being in the military in Canada and as an athlete, we are first soldiers, and secondary we are athletes. So that's how it works here in Canada.
Okay, I will translate this. Então, uma coisa que ela deixou muito claro é que no Canadá, o esporte nas Forças Armadas, primeiro você é um militar e depois você é um atleta, e não o oposto. Então, o que ela quer dizer com isso? Ela é contratada da Marinha para trabalhar na parte de comunicação. E esse é o trabalho dela. No tempo livre, ela treina. Obviamente, as Forças Armadas, no caso a Marinha, que ela representa, paga ela para ir nos Jogos militares, nos campeonatos militares. Então, ela tem esse apoio. Mas o mais importante é, primeiro, ela fazer o trabalho dela. Então, o programa das Forças Armadas ali é um pouco diferente do que é o Brasil, onde a sua principal função aqui no Brasil, porque eu converso com os atletas que são militares, é primeiro você é atleta. A sua função dentro das Forças Armadas é representar o país nas competições militares. Lá não. Lá você de fato segue a carreira militar e você tem isso como prioridade. Então primeiro você faz o seu trabalho e depois você treina e representa o Canadá nos Jogos. E outra coisa que ela citou aqui na resposta dela, que eu falei que eu havia visto ela competir em 2018 no Campeonato Mundial Militar, que foi no Rio de Janeiro. E ela falou que o Brasil é um dos países favoritos dela. Ela já tinha vindo para cá em 2011, veio agora em 2018. E ela disse que ela adora a cultura brasileira, as pessoas aqui. Ela disse que de todos os lugares que ela já foi, e ela já foi para bastante, aqui é o lugar que ela mais gosta. Agora eu vou perguntar para ela. Ela foi bronze no Campeonato Mundial de 2009. E eu vou perguntar um pouco para ela como foi esse dia, se ela se lembra, como foi essa experiência, desde a área de aquecimento até a final. Yvette, you were bronze medal in the World Championship in 2009, right? I would like to know how it was this experience, if you remember what was in your mind during the warm-up area until the final. How was this day? What passed through your mind?
So 2009.
Just 11 years ago. It's like yesterday.
11 years ago. Yeah. So in 2009, I was 19 years
19.
old. So it was my third year on the national team, because I started on the senior national team in 2006. So I've been on the team since 2006,
How old were
and it was
you?
my first. I was 16 in 2006.
You were young.
Yeah, so I've been on the national team 15 years now. Yeah. So that was my third year on the national team. The first year we went to, I think, Argentina for Pan Am Championships, and I won my first Pan Am Championships at 16 years old.
Nice.
So, from juniors to going on to seniors at the same time, it was such a different feeling. And still, when I was 19, I was still at that feeling where, when I was junior, I wasn't afraid of anything, because, I didn't have as much experience as all the other adults, so I had that kind of advantage. I have that, young mindset of, I can do it. Nothing can beat me, like everything in my mind is like, go, go, go. Like I'm strong, I can do it. We don't have that much experience in our mind to make us, nervous, so I think the more experience you have, the more you have that will make you nervous, because you always have to perform better and better and better each time that you compete. So when I was 19, I did have a little bit of experience, but not as much as now. But back then I was still young, and when I had my first match, I was pretty nervous, because the first match is the most nervous, and I can tell, like, everybody can agree with me. The first match is always the worst one. But after I fought the first one, it was, it seemed like I had like all the nervousness come out of me, and my mom was there, and it was it was good to have family there too. So when I was fighting each fight, I had a sense of I could do it. It was much easier, like I could do it with my mom there and everything. So I had that support of having my mom there really drove me, because she's always been my number one support. So I always just thought of her, So up until the quarterfinals and then the semifinals, it was pretty tough. But knowing that my mom was there, it really got me going until the very, very end, because she supported me since I was like very, very young. They were there for every competition, every training, and to have her there with me, especially at World Championships, it was, I wanted to do it for her. So unfortunately, I got the bronze. I really wanted to get the gold, but it was my first world medal, and I was 19 years old, so I was pretty happy.
Nice. I will translate. It's a very nice history. And actually, I know a lot of athletes that doesn't perform so well when their mom or their girlfriend are there. So
yeah, that's right. It could either be this or this, So fortunately for me, it was better.
Ok. Então ela falou que ela contou um pouco da história dela, que ela entrou na seleção nacional com 15 anos. Com 16 ou 17 ela foi campeã do campeonato Panamericano já, no adulto. E o primeiro campeonato mundial dela ela tinha 19 anos, que foi quando ela pegou o bronze. E ela falou que basicamente por não ter tanto comparativo, então ela falou que quando você vai ficando mais experiente, as pessoas esperam mais de você. Quando você é mais jovem, primeiro que você tem aquela pegada mais agressiva e as pessoas não esperam tanto por você. Então, ela já se sentia mais livre e mais confiante por causa disso. Como as pessoas não esperavam tanto dela, ela tinha menos pressão, então ela ficava menos nervosa nesse sentido. E outra coisa que ela falou que foi fundamental para essa medalha foi a presença da mãe dela. Então ela falou que a mãe dela sempre apoiou ela e esteve em várias competições, e no Mundial ela estava lá também. E ter esse suporte da mãe dela, esse apoio da mãe dela quando ela estava ali no Mundial, fez ela desempenhar muito melhor durante a competição. Ela falou, obviamente o objetivo dela era o ouro, né? Mas pelo menos veio o bronze e foi muito especial para ela. Agora eu vou perguntar para ela se tem alguma competição que foi mais especial, digamos assim, alguma competição que ela lembra mais. Probably you had answered a lot of time this question, but I think it's another important question. Do you have any competition during all this time that's more special for you? It doesn't need to be like the main title that you have, but any competition that you this tastes like special, you know? Do you have any competition that's special for you?
I'll give you one guess what country was in.
Oh, in Brazil. Oh, that's for sure.
Yeah, so in 2011, I came to Brazil for the World Military Games. It was my first time in Brazil, and it was special to me. I won it, so it was special to me because just a few months before that, I was at the World Championships in no, not Korea. Was it Korea? Yes, Korea, 2011. The World Championships was in Korea. And in the quarterfinals for the medal round, I fought this Chinese girl from China. And I lost to her in sudden death, in golden point, for the medal. And so a few months later, we were in Brazil, and all the national teams are there. I saw her there, and she was my final fight. And I just, my mind was so focused that day. I was so focused that entire time. We were in Brazil, and Taekwondo was actually one of the very last sports to compete. So we were there for a long time. So I had to keep focused for a long time. Everybody, once they were done competing from all sports, they were all partying. Brazil, like
Yes.
such a fun country. So like it's a fun country. Like it was amazing. So I had to stay focused the entire 2 weeks, and I just knew that I would fight that girl again. And in the finals, I met her and I beat her. And it wasn't just a golden point beat, it was I beat her. And I felt so proud of myself because, and with my coach and like everything that I did up from the last World Championships to World Military Championships in Brazil, I really focused hard and I wanted to win. That was my goal. And the thing is, I did. And I was so happy because I finally beat her. And it was really funny. Once I beat her and the buzzer went like beep, I jumped up and I did the splits. I don't know if it was a big moment, and it was caught on video, but it was really, really fun because I felt the entire crowd just, like screaming and yelling. That's what is so good about Brazil.
Yes.
You guys have such a good spirit for everything you guys do, right? So that was why it was one of my favorite competitions and places to be, because like Brazilians are just wonderful people. They're friendly. They have so much spirit. It's not even if a Brazilian is fighting. If they see somebody who that makes them excited,
Yes.
they're just full of spirit. I love that. And I remember that moment so well because when I won, the whole crowd was just cheering, and it will always be in my memory as my favorite Taekwondo competition. I think for my entire career. I don't know yet. I'm still gonna fight, but I don't know. But it's very hard to beat that one.
Yes, it will be a challenge to beat this one. I will translate this. It's a very nice story. Eu perguntei qual foi a competição mais especial para ela, e ela falou, adivinhe qual país que foi essa competição. Foi no Brasil. E ela falou que foi em 2011, foi no primeiro Jogos Mundial Militar dela, e alguns meses antes ela havia perdido as quartas de final, a disputa de medalha, para uma atleta da China. E essa atleta ela estava na mesma categoria dela nos Jogos Mundiais Militares. E ela falou que o Taekwondo ela foi um dos últimos esportes dos Jogos, então os Jogos eles têm vários esportes, né, como todos os Jogos, então ela teve que ficar muito tempo focada, disse que todo mundo ia competindo nos outros esportes e já estava fazendo festa. Ela falou, sabe como que é aí no Brasil, né? Então o pessoal já competia, ficava na festa. E aí o Taekwondo foi um dos últimos esportes e ela estava muito focada em ganhar aquela competição. E ela fez uma grande luta, ela fez a final com essa chinesa e conseguiu vencer essa chinesa que ela havia perdido no Mundial alguns meses antes. E ela falou que a torcida, possivelmente foi uma luta bem dinâmica, e a torcida, todo mundo começou a gritar e apoiar ela quando ela ganhou. E ela falou que, sentiu uma energia muito especial. E ela falou, isso é o que eu gosto do Brasil. O brasileiro, ele tem muito essa questão de paixão, de se envolver. E ela, por isso que o Brasil é muito especial para ela, né? Então essa foi a competição especial dela. Ela falou, lógico que eu ainda vou competir mais vezes, mas para bater essa competição vai ser difícil. Agora eu vou perguntar para ela qual foi o adversário mais difícil que ela já lutou, e se pudesse escolher um adversário para lutar novamente, ou que ela ainda não lutou, quem seria? Who was the most difficult fight, the most challenging fight that you had in your career, if you could say one? And if you could choose one opponent to fight again, or even if you didn't fight yet, who would be this opponent?
So one of the hardest to fight, the hardest opponent to fight. Saying? Yeah.
Yes,
oh
the
man.
hardest opponent.
So I would have to say two.
Okay.
Two people. So in my career, I fought the one of the Olympic medalists from Thailand, Chanitip. I don't know if you're saying her name. Yeah. She was one of my idols too when I watched her in the Olympic Games before, and I did fight her in Grand Prix before, and also the Olympic champion Wu Jingyi from China. I fought those guys, those two before. Those were my most difficult fights, not because they were I wasn't as good as them. It's because I was still very shocked that I was in front of them fighting, and it just that really made me how do you say? There's another is more so shocked, but in awe, because I saw them in all these fights before. I saw them in Olympics, I saw them in World Championships, and they were just all over the place and amazing fighters, and that is who I looked up to. So it was almost like I was fighting my idols, and so it was more so shocked than not being as good as them. But I really appreciated fighting those people, because they are very respectable fighters. They really fight. They are real fighters. They don't do silly things, or they don't have arrogance, or they're not bad people. They're very good sport. They have very good sportsmanship, and when they fought, they really fought like real fighters. So I would have to say they are both my idols, and both the most difficult people to fight.
I see. I will translate this. Então ela citou duas atletas aqui, que é uma tailandesa, que eu já não lembro o nome, e a outra chinesa, que foi campeã olímpica. Eu tenho dificuldade de falar esses nomes asiáticos aí. Mas ela falou que essas duas atletas, ela não é nem só pela diferença de nível de luta, vamos dizer assim, porque ela é uma boa atleta, mas essas duas atletas sempre foram as referências dela, foram ídolos dela, porque ela falou, elas dentro de quadras realmente eram muito boas atletas, muito boas lutadoras, e fora de quadra elas tinham uma postura de fair play, de serem boas pessoas, boas atletas. Então isso deu a ela uma referência. Então lutar com elas é como se ela estivesse lutando com o ídolo dela. Então, acho que essas foram as lutas mais difíceis, não só pelo nível técnico delas, mas por você estar lutando com a pessoa que você admirou, que você usava como referência. Então, acho que essas foram as duas principais adversárias que ela teve na carreira. Agora eu vou perguntar para ela, não sei quem está acompanhando aqui já viu ela lutar, mas ela tem um estilo muito agressivo de luta, com bastante step, movimentação, ela é muito rápida. Eu vou perguntar um pouco como que é o treino, como que é a preparação dela para ela manter esse estilo de luta. Yvette, your fighting style, I think you are very aggressive. I like your displacement, the velocity of your kick, and I'm very curious of how does you train in the physical aspect and technical aspect. How is your preparation to keep this style? I like very much of your style.
So you want to know my secrets?
Yeah. Well, that's the main point of this meeting. Now you are catching the goal.
So honestly, there is no secret, and the thing is, like, with Taekwondo or with any sport, honestly, there is no secret. I don't know, unless you're taking like drugs to.
Yeah.
No, I you know, the secret to being fast and to, you know, being fierce in the fight and being that kind of fighter is to really train like that. You have to train like you're gonna be fighting in a fight, you know. So you have to train extra hard, because when you're in a competition, when you're nervous and when you are in front of somebody, you will always do, you know, the best, like up to like 70% of what you can really do. So when you train, you really have to train about 150%. And the thing is that I will train until like I cannot breathe anymore. You know, if I can still do it, if I have a class, a training session with my team, and I still feel like I have energy in the end, I still will always do extra things. Not crazy things, but just extra repetition, because I feel that repetition is one of the best things that you can do for your body, because you want to be fast, you want to react, so you want to train your body to be right. And you know, if you can push yourself, you can do it. I think that being tired or like mentally and physically is just all in your mind. You know, if people really believe that they can do something, you can do it. You know, like there's some things that other people can't explain. You know, like there's a thing with a mother and her kid or her baby was under the car. How do you explain that when she lifted the car and got the baby out? There's some things you can't explain, right? And the thing is, that tells you that the mind is very, very powerful. If you train your mind to go harder, to go an extra set, to train just 10 more minutes after, just do some repetition, your body will do it. It's all in your mind, I think, you know, so you really have to train your mind to be stronger. And extra training will always help you be stronger, faster, and, you know, be more successful than your other opponents.
Nice, that's a very nice explanation. I will translate this. Então, primeiro ela brincou, então você quer saber o meu segredo aqui, né? Aí eu falei, pô, agora você pegou o ponto dessa entrevista aqui. Então ela falou assim, não tem nenhum segredo, nenhum esporte tem nenhum segredo para o desempenho, a não ser que você use drogas, mas o ponto central está na atitude do treino. Ela falou, ela sempre treina muito forte, então ela falou o seguinte, na competição, normalmente muitas vezes você acaba desempenhando 70% do seu máximo, às vezes é difícil você conseguir lutar do mesmo jeito que você luta na academia. Então, se você desempenha 70% do seu 100% na hora da competição, você tem que treinar 150%, porque daí o seu 70% vai compensar ali. Então, ela sempre partiu desse pressuposto. E ela falou o seguinte, todos os treinos que ela faz, se ela chega no final do treino e ela não está exausta, ela vai fazer algumas repetições a mais de algum exercício. Ela falou, não é nenhuma loucura, mas ela acha que você treinar um pouco mais de repetições de alguns golpes, algumas coisas que são relevantes para você, vai te ajudar na sua performance. E ela falou, tá tudo na sua cabeça, você tem que treinar como um campeão. Então, se você sempre treinar, passar dos seus limites, chegar no seu limite, possivelmente você vai conseguir fazer a mesma coisa na hora da competição. Então essa é a minha filosofia de treino que ela tem, de sempre fazer o máximo, se chegou no final ela está bem, ela vai treinar mais, e essa mentalidade de campeão que ela acredita que deva ter. Então ela deu exemplo que tudo está na nossa mente. Ela deu exemplo, por exemplo, quando a criança está debaixo do carro, aí a mãe desesperada vai e levanta o carro, como que você explica isso? Às vezes a gente tem alguns bloqueios mentais, é a mente que é o segredo. Então, essa foi a resposta dela, que é bem interessante, essa mentalidade de campeão. Eu vou. Ela já respondeu em parte, e eu vou emendar com uma outra pergunta, que culturalmente aqui no Brasil, às vezes a gente tem alguns bloqueios mentais, vamos dizer assim, quando chega em hora de pressão, em diferentes esportes, às vezes o atleta eles desempenham mal o brasileiro. E eu quero saber, no caso dela, se além disso, ela faz algum tipo de treinamento mental ou coisa do tipo. Yvette, here in Brazil, culturally speaking, our athletes tend to not perform so well when they came to the final moments, to environments that has a lot of pressure. We are different from Russians, for example, or from Iran athletes. Like our Russian, they are happy or they are nervous, they are with the same face, they can be winning or losing, they will fight you in the same way. Here in Brazil, no. And in a lot of sports, and we can see the example of the last soccer World Cup, when we came to the pressure moments, normally a lot of our athletes they fail. You kindly that explain for me about a little of the secrets of your mindset with your training and extra training. I would like to know if you do any other kind of mental preparation. You have a professional, or do you have a mental training? What do you do to prepare yourself, mentally speaking?
Well, I don't have a professional mentor or psychologist or anything. My coach just looks at me and says, "Don't be stupid." I'm joking, but yes and no. But honestly, I think it's different with every athlete. They deal with pressure differently. I don't think like majority of people yes do that, but I don't think like all Brazilians, they not all of them do that. Like it is very hard when you're at that point, when you're just about to win, that very last buzzer, like for example the Olympics, with that one final fight. In 1 second, Cote d'Ivoire, the Cisse, he
Yes.
kicked, and it was 1 second, and the other opponent thought he was winning, and he already thought in his mind that he won, right? And it's normal for people to think that. If I was in that situation, I would be like that too. And then because you never know, 1 second can change your life, can change everything forever. And so, I've had some experiences like that, but mostly from watching other things. And the thing with that is you have to keep your mindset the same the entire fight. It doesn't matter if you're winning or you're losing or you're tied. When you first go into the fight, what do people think? I want to win. I want to be above in points and I want to win. But why do people change their minds when they're in there already? So they're in the fight, I want to win, I'm going to win. In the middle of the fight, they're already winning. What are they thinking? Oh, I'm already winning. No, you cannot think like that. You have to think, I'm in there to win. So you have to keep that same mindset. The only reason why people are nervous or they do not perform when they're under pressure is because they change their in the middle of the match. You have to keep your mindset the same. Either when you're winning, you're losing, you're the same. My goal from the beginning of the match has to stay the same until the very end, until the buzzer beep, like that. 1 second, even if you change your mindset 1 second before, like, oh, I'm already winning, then your entire mind will change. And if your mind changes, your body will not react, right? So that is, I want to say it's my secret, but I know it's very hard for people to change that because you're in that situation, but you have to train your mind to be like that. You have to train your mind to have that one goal, and you have to stay with it the entire way, because once you change it, it's going to be different.
I see. I fully agree with you. That's a very
Mhm.
nice answer. I will translate here. Ela deu uma resposta bem legal. Ela falou que ela não tem nenhum profissional que acompanha, nenhum psicólogo. Ela falou que o técnico dela só olha para ela e fala: não seja estúpida, não seja imbecil. e vai lá para a competição. Mas ela falou uma coisa bem interessante. Ela deu o exemplo do Cissé, que nos últimos Jogos Olímpicos, no último segundo ele virou a luta e foi campeão. O adversário dele estava ganhando e achou que estava ganhando, e ela falou: cara, eu também possivelmente acharia que ia ganhar a luta, e nos últimos segundos o atleta da Costa do Marfim ele virou a luta. E ela falou que esse é um dos maiores erros quando a gente fala em mindset, na forma de pensar. Você começa a luta e fala: eu vou ser campeão. Aí você começa a ganhar, aí você muda a chave e fala: não, eu estou ganhando. Isso muda o seu estilo de jogo. Ela fala: você tem que continuar na caminhada, não importa se está ganhando, se está perdendo, se foi para o golden point, a sua mente tem que estar focada na vitória. Você fala: eu vou ganhar, eu vou ganhar. Pode estar 10-0, 20-0, você tem que continuar com o mesmo estilo de luta, com a mesma mentalidade. E ela acha que esse é um dos segredos que ela tem para ela no que se refere à mentalidade. Então foi bem legal essa resposta dela. Agora eu vou perguntar para ela. Ela é uma pessoa, como a gente já pôde ver, com resultados internacionais desde muito cedo, e ela ainda é top 1 do ranking mundial hoje. E como foi essa adaptação dela para novas tecnologias, toda essa mudança de estilo? Yvette, you have been in high level taekwondo for many years. As you said, you are in the national team since you are 15, 16, and the taekwondo style changed a lot during this period. The technologies changed, the way of fighting had changed, and even the high of the athletes has changed. How did you, and you are, nowadays you are top 1 in the world ranking, so it's not like your performance head down, like you keeping the top even through all this time. How it was this adaptation to new styles? Because Taekwondo changed a lot, and you keep adapting with him. How does it was this change and these adaptations?
Well, in the beginning, I remember when the electronic system was introduced, the very first year. And I remember that competition where everybody was, people all over there who were national team, world champions, Pan Am champions, they were just very high level athletes. And when we put these silly, the first electronic system was L'Adjust. And when we put these on, everybody looks like, how the dogs, dogs have they put on slippers for the dogs.
Yes, yes.
You know
yes.
how they walk like this. They don't know what to do. That is what all of us look like when we first started that. Nobody knew. Yeah, nobody knew what to do. It felt weird. We never wore gloves either. And then the chest guard, it changed to this, the shoulder thing, and then the headgear, it was heavier up here, because of the system. And then on our feet, like it felt weird wearing socks. We never wear these kind of things when we fight, right? So it was just very awkward. Nobody knew what to do. And we looked so silly, like very very silly. We don't even know how to balance properly because it felt so weird. So the beginning was very weird, but everybody eventually saw ways to score points without doing any type of martial arts. And that was what really really bothered me, because Taekwondo is a martial arts.
Yes.
It is a martial arts first, is tradition,
Yes.
and to take away take away that type of martial arts, it really it like hurt me, because I feel like people were just joining now because they can win by doing silly things that are not even martial arts.
Yes.
So that really bothered me, and they were saying that all these new people can join now to score these points, and that I wanted to say no. That is not right. We should not do that. I want to keep my style and still win, because it was very hard for us to kick again, because we had to kick at different angles.
Yes.
Like we didn't it the same things that we did before didn't work
Yes.
before. So after a little while, they knew that the L'Adjust, or that first system, was bad, so then they had to change it, and then we moved on to Dado, KPMP, and many versions of it. So somewhere in there, I have a huge box of all the different socks from 2000, and I don't know when it started, 2008 maybe. I have so many socks, spent so much money on these socks, and sometimes I didn't even use one of them because they changed the system already. And they keep having to change the system and change the rules, because people are finding ways to not cheat, but different ways to not you know
Winning without
fight.
fighting.
Yeah, win without fighting. Exactly. Yeah. So it was very frustrating to me, and in my mind, my goal was to keep my style, because that is me. I really tried to change a little bit, to like, I saw other fights, and I was watching it with my coach, and saying, oh, look, that kick is working, this kick is working. But all my years of training since I was little, I have to change all of that because I want to win. And even if I did win by just doing a cut kick like this, I would not feel proud of that. If I win, I want to feel very proud of what I did, and not as a martial artist first. Not just a champion. I want to be a martial artist first, because that teaching that all we went through when we were little all the way to up, that means a lot to me. That is the true martial arts, and I wanted to keep that. So I trained hard, and I had to train harder, because I feel that the foundations of martial arts will always win, I think. There, like, it doesn't mean that I win all the time, but I want to win with integrity. I want to win, proud of myself, of the things that I'm doing. I want it to be a true martial artist that wins. Not just somebody who joined like 3 months ago and then wins world championships. That doesn't mean anything. Like, to me, if it wouldn't mean anything, right?
Yeah, very
Yeah.
nice.
So you can yeah.
Very continent answer. O que ela falou aqui foi bem interessante. Ela acompanhou desde o L'Adjust até os sistemas atuais, né, de Daido e KPP. E ela falou que quando foi introduzido o L'Adjust, ela deu exemplo, a gente parecia, sabe quando você coloca meia no cachorro, o cachorro perde equilíbrio, não sabe o que fazer? Ela falou, cara, o primeiro campeonato de L'Adjust que a gente lutou, o capacete era pesado, a gente nunca tinha usado aqueles equipamentos, as meias escorregavam, a gente não conseguia nem manter o equilíbrio direito. E ela falou, cara, tem uma caixa só de meia com os diferentes tipos de protetores eletrônicos, né? Meia para os diferentes tipos. Alguns ela falou, pô, eu nem usei porque já trocou logo em seguida, e toda vez tem que ir melhorando o sistema, porque as pessoas tentam fazer coisas que não são da luta, não são da arte marcial, e tentam fazer para pontuar. E ela falou que no início incomodou muito ela essa questão de entrar em pessoas que, cara, treinam há pouco tempo Taekwondo e não são verdadeiros artistas marcial, mas só de fazer algumas coisas com a perna da frente, onde que, falou, pô, o cara tá lutando, ele só tá pontuando. Essa diferença de lógica de luta, de lutar mesmo, para pontuar só, de esgrima, vamos dizer assim, ela disse que incomodou muito ela. Obviamente ela teve que fazer alguns ajustes no estilo, mas ela quis manter, ela falou, antes de tudo, eu sou uma artista marcial e eu sou uma lutadora. E se eu for ganhar, eu quero ganhar com integridade, vamos dizer assim. Eu quero manter esse estilo, porque essa sou eu mesmo. Então é bem interessante, ela é top 1 do ranking. Ela tem uma estatura mais baixa do que muitos atletas na categoria e ela tem um estilo bem agressivo, um estilo que é muito legal de ver e isso diferencia ela de outros atletas. E ela tem isso por filosofia. Ela fala, não quero só pontuar sem ser uma artista marcial de verdade. Então ela tem isso no DNA dela. Eu tinha várias outras perguntas aqui, mas a gente realmente está sem tempo. Eu só vou fazer mais uma pergunta sobre o que ela acha do taekwondo brasileiro. Hi, Beth. I had a lot of questions here, but we are getting out of time.
That's okay.
I will just ask you, Brazil, in taekwondo, since 2 years ago, we have been increasing our international results. I don't know if you are seeing or not. And I would like to know your opinion about this new generation of Brazilian athletes and coaches, and what do you think about it?
What I think about it, yeah, Brazil has always had a great team. I've always respected the Brazilian team because they are real fighters. They have it in their blood. They have so much spirit, which I love, and it shows in all of the fighters that you have. Sorry, yeah. But they have been doing so well in the past few years, and I've seen them all the time. I know all of them.
Yes.
Some of them are my good friends, and it's because they have that fighting spirit that shows in the fight, and I think Taekwondo has gotten. It has a lot of up and down since the electronic system started, and they're trying to find the right rules for them because the rules just keep changing, and it messes everybody up. But in the end, when true martial artists really show, and Brazilians are doing so well because they put a lot of work into it. Their team is very good. Like they're always together, and they really, really support one another. Like I said, they have great spirit, and when anybody of their team is fighting, they're always there with them. And that's really important as a fighter and as an athlete on the team, to have your whole team there supporting you. It makes a lot of difference. Some countries don't have a full team, and that's unfortunate because when they're fighting and they're doing so well, like you don't have a team there supporting you. Even just somebody in the crowd, or just like hands clapping or like yelling from the crowd, that really, really helps. And like I said, Brazilians have great spirit, and when they were fighting, I just like the whole crowd could see them there, cheering for them, and that really it made a lot of other teams like respect them a lot. So I think they're amazing. They did so well internationally, and it really shows when you have a good team and spirit, and a good coaching staff, and yeah, I think they did so well this year, and the past few years.
Yes. I will translate for people here. Então ela falou que ela sempre respeitou o taekwondo brasileiro. Ela falou que os brasileiros eles têm esse DNA de luta, vamos dizer assim, de artistas marciais, de lutadores de verdade. Falou, obviamente, com o advento do coletivo eletrônico, você tem altos e baixos, o mundo tem que se adaptar. E ela acha que o que faz muita diferença para o Brasil é a questão de equipe. Ela falou, pô, tá nos campeonatos, tá sempre a equipe inteira gritando e dando apoio, dando suporte. Isso faz muita diferença para a pessoa que está ali lutando, sentir que está toda a equipe junto com ele. E a gente tem relatos disso, de fato, no último Mundial, os atletas, os técnicos falaram realmente que teve essa união. E ela fala que esse tem um pouco desse espírito brasileiro, tanto na união da equipe, quanto como lutador de verdade. Aí agora eu vou encerrar e perguntar se ela quer dar algum recado para vocês. Hi, Beth, we need to finish here. I would like to know if you have any recommendation, any kind of, if you want to say something for Brazilian community, and if you want to do any kind of marketing about any site, I don't know, anything about it, if you feel free to say whatever you want.
Like I said, you already know Brazil was my favorite country to visit and to compete in, and I hold one of my greatest memories there in 2011 and also 2018 when I was there as well. Brazilians have always been such friendly people. All the time to everybody all around the world. You guys are known for being like very spirited and nice people, very friendly. Um, Anytime like we do anything, like, oh, Brazilian team's there, okay, perfect. Like it's always, you guys have a really good how do I say, a very good impression to the whole world,
Nice.
and that's why I'm very good friends with a lot of them, and it shows through your fighting style, the team spirit that they have, and even you, like, you're so nice.
Oh, thank you very much.
um, and the things that you're doing for the Taekwondo community right now, it's so good, especially in this time that everybody has, not been out, and all the competitions, all the events have stopped, it's so good to have this type of thing going to give them support and to give them more inspiration, to keep our community, a Taekwondo community, I think, is worldwide. It's not just Brazil, not just Canada, not just, any other country. It's worldwide. And, it's good for you for doing this. And I'm really honored to be here with you and helping that kind of community too, because I really believe in it. And it's been a huge part of my life. So thank you.
Oh, I'm really thankful for everything. I will just translate this. Então ela falou que adora o Brasil e os brasileiros. Ela falou bastante sobre o espírito, o carisma do brasileiro. E quando a gente vai lá fora, a gente é reconhecido por esse nosso carisma, esse nosso bom humor, essa facilidade de fazer amigos e, enfim. Então ela falou, quando você vai na competição, às vezes quer conversar com alguém, já vai ali no time do Brasil. Então ela elogiou muito, ela tem muitos amigos que são da seleção, conhece todo mundo da seleção brasileira. E ela também parabenizou a questão do programa, especialmente nessa época de Covid, trazer informação para o pessoal da comunidade do Taekwondo. Ela falou, a comunidade do Taekwondo não é a comunidade do Taekwondo brasileiro, canadense, é a comunidade do Taekwondo do mundo. Então ela trouxe um pouco desse recado, e eu vou agradecer a ela e vou finalizar o programa. Yvette, thank you very much. I will just finish the program here in Portuguese, ok? Pessoal, então é isso. Se vocês gostaram, curtam o vídeo e não esqueçam de deixar nos comentários o que vocês acharam desse novo formato, se vocês querem que eu traga mais pessoas de fora e faça a tradução simultânea, o que vocês acharam desse estilo de programa aqui, tudo bem? Então foi muito legal, gostei muito de conversar com a Yvette, ela é uma pessoa muito simpática e uma grande atleta, que eu sou um grande fã dela. E é isso. Então, abraços e até semana que vem.